Oftentimes, our emotions can cloud our decision. So, for example, you get angry, you've got a situation with a sibling, a parent, a child, and they're annoying the hell out of you, and you can't stay calm anymore. A part of the way to resolve, I think, conflict and disagreement or frustration is to understand that there's a different perspective. Even though sometimes we're convinced the way I'm suggesting or I'm trying to teach you is the right way, and it might be the right way from your perception. So if we can step back, and you could say it's a question of taking the ego out of the equation, but the ego has this negative connotation. But sometimes it's just a question of, okay, let me step out of the situation. Let me look at it from a neutral perspective. Is there another way to handle this? Am I communicating it in the right way? Because sometimes the person who's hearing our words, we think we're saying blue, but they're hearing something different. So then it's a question of stepping back. Can I rephrase it? Do I have to have a different approach? Do I have to let it go? Do I address this another day? But ultimately it comes down to trying to be as open-minded to letting go of this is how I see it, and therefore this is the right way. There is actually a Buddhist concept called the mu, M-U, and literally it means it is both yes and no at the same time. It is both right and wrong. So if you can approach conflicts in the workplace, in your personal life with that mindset that it could be both yes for both of us. Affirmation is this strange, it's not a new phenomenon. I think human as a species, we do need external affirmation. As a child, we need affirmation from our parents that we are loved, that we're protected. There's also Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's this triangle that says we need security, we need a sense of belonging, we need a sense of family, we need a sense of love, and all these things. We do need affirmation. The challenge is to not be a prisoner of those affirmations, and unfortunately that's what social media is making us. We're becoming addicted and dependent to these external affirmations. It's okay to feel good about getting X amount of likes, but don't let those likes or those views define your worth. A part of your self-worth has got to be determined how you feel about yourself. Are you doing the right thing for the right reasons? Are you do you have a purpose? Are you fulfilling that purpose? If you're focused more on the big picture of what you're doing, those external affirmations become less significant. We need them. Here's the nuance. We need affirmation, but don't depend on affirmation. Do I balance affirmation? That's the, it's the new $60 million question these days. How do you balance it, and how do you know that you balanced it? Because I think, forgive me for incorporating everybody, but like everybody else, we are living in this world of social media. We are living in this instant world of instant gratification where did I get a text? Did somebody respond? Am I victim to that? Yes, I am. Am I aware of it? Yes. So what I have to try to remind myself is, if I feel myself getting weighed down, I have to reevaluate, I have to recalibrate. I have to step back and say, okay, Vital, what do you need to do right now to not be dependent or to not get yourself down because the Joneses next door have a bigger, better car than you? I've got to step away from that and tell myself, well, that's their journey. Secondly, we get caught up in this. We see other people's highlight reel on social media, and then we compare it to the worst of ourselves. I have to remind myself that this is what I'm doing, this works for me. That's what they're doing, and that's what works for them. I think that's ultimately, we have to be more self-aware of what we want, who we are.
Yeah, and you can't be good at everything.
No. Understand what you're good at, understand why you're here, and just focus on that. There are a lot of things in life that drive me. A part of it is just the desire to have a positive impact and influence on other people. There's the drive that I want to be my best self, and sometimes it's not easy to become that. The drive is this innate. There are choices. Drive is about sometimes choices. There are days that I'm not driven, but there are days that I have to dig deep And whatever that little spark in me is for that day, I've got to find ways to fuel it. It can be a question of really asking myself, how much do I want to become this new version of myself? And there's a very cool anecdote that William H. McRaven, he's a former Navy SEAL and was in fact involved in the capture of bin Laden. And he has this very simple philosophy, and he breaks it down to, he says, make your bed every morning. It's that simple. That already establishes the day. It sets you up for success because it's a commitment to achieving something. And so sometimes for me, the desire, the drive is I want to be successful. Through me being successful, I can then fulfill my purpose, inspiring and empowering other people to also fulfill their dreams. So ultimately, there's a two-sided drive. There's the selfish drive where it's for me about how I feel about myself, and then there's the external one where I can empower and inspire other people. But it all comes from here, the heart. The spark sometimes is there by default. Sometimes it's this little ember that needs fueling, it needs oxygen, and there are days I wake up in the morning and I tell myself, I don't have it in me today. So sometimes we can't always live off inspiration and motivation. Sometimes it's pure discipline. But the discipline is something that you've established over the years of your behavior. Do you commit to your objectives? Do you invest time on a regular basis? Because we all know that success doesn't happen overnight. It's a commitment. So when I don't have those days when I'm full of energy and I'm energized and I want to go get it, I have to tap into my discipline, my training. Discipline becomes a habit. It's something that you have to establish and becomes patterns of behavior. There is actually a thing called the 21-90 rule. Habits we break quite easily. If you can turn a habit, which is, they say 21 days you create a habit. If you can continue that habit for 90 days, it then becomes a behavior. It then becomes your lifestyle. So a part of your discipline has to become a lifestyle. If you are disciplined in one area of your life, it will probably translate to other areas of your life because your behavioral DNA is discipline. Your behavioral DNA is commitment to something. So that's the discipline part. You've got to nurture it, you've got to build it, and then once it's been established, you've got to keep tweaking it, adjusting it, sculpting it.
What does your sculpture look like?
That's a good question. What does my sculpture look like in terms of discipline? It changes, it morphs. Another part I think of success is the ability to adapt. There isn't a single day that is exactly the same. I wake up in a different mood. There are different challenges that I can face on a specific day. I have to morph my energy, my mindset on that day, the energy levels that I have. Whatever it is that I have on that day, I have to optimize it and sculpt it. Sometimes it's an angry sculpture. Sometimes it's a sculpture that is zen and it's peaceful. Sometimes it's a sculpture that is pure harmony and nothing but pure white light. And other days it's dark and there's a shadow. But that's life. We have to embrace those different sculptures. I like to think the way that I help those that I either engage in large audiences on stage or one-on-one, it starts with the self. I'm a huge believer in leadership by example. One of my favorite quotes, John Quincy Adams says that if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So the way that I can inspire and impact people is with myself. What example am I giving? Am I a hypocrite or am I walking the walk? That's the best way that I can inspire and empower people. I also leverage some of my personal challenges that I faced. Vulnerability. I have to be vulnerable. I have to let people see that I have failed. I have to let people know that I have moments of doubt. Because when we're too perfect and we're too confident, people don't necessarily buy into this because it's just too perfect and it can be intimidating. So the best way that I can inspire and empower is to be authentic. This is me. This is the beautiful part of me. This is the not so beautiful part of me, but it's all a part of the package. Not everybody's going to buy it, but those who resonate, those that relate to me, that I can relate with them and we connect, they're the ones that I can inspire and empower. It starts with authenticity. If I go out on stage and I'm pretending to be something that I'm not, the audience isn't silly. They're not stupid. They get it. In any capacity, as a performer in Cirque du Soleil, if I go out there and I'm not being true to who I am, I'm not being true to the company for who I'm representing, in business, your brand, it has to be authentic. So in a nutshell, authenticity. If you're not authentic, they're not buying it. There is an element of a facade that comes with authenticity. And what I mean by that is, so for example, if I'm giving a leadership presentation and I'm having a bad day, my baggage has nothing to do with the audience. Performing in Cirque du Soleil, whether I had a headache, whether I was tired, whether I didn't want to be there that day, I had to go out and fake it. I had to put on the mask. But the mask isn't really fake because it still stems from who I am. My commitment to want to be the best of me is a part of my DNA. So I'm still being true. And to repackage or rephrase the word fake, what I'm going to say is this. For example, I show up on a day and my volume is at 3, because that's where my energy level is at that day. I have to go out there and I have to turn up the volume to 9. Is that fake? No, but I've exaggerated or maybe changed slightly the authenticity of where I am on that day. It is ultimately still my responsibility to show up, to deliver, regardless of how I'm feeling. So I'm still being authentic, just digging deeper to communicate that drive, that passion. That's always a challenge in life where we're confronted with situations that we all have triggers. And I believe that there is no harm in allowing ourselves to feel an emotion. There are days when something makes me angry. I can either suppress that anger and hopefully it will dissipate and fade into the oblivion, but it can also manifest and then it can build. So I think ultimately in terms of the anger that we feel, allow yourself to feel it. Allow that emotion to pass through you. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. We tend to train ourselves, oh, but I can't feel this. Why not? We are emotional beings. A part of that experience as a human being is we feel. So what I tend to do is I allow myself to feel. I don't try and analyze it. I just feel. And hopefully I find ways to leverage that emotion to my benefit. There are days I've been hurt. In fact, we are driven, emotions drive our decisions. We either run away from pain or we run towards pleasure. They're the two things that motivate us the most. If I don't allow myself to feel, how am I going to take action? Because the more something hurts me, the more I'm not going to want to experience it again, the more I'm going to get creative and find solutions. So allow yourself to feel. Then there's the logical part. We break down we overthink these emotions. Sometimes you've got to simply rely on instinct. That is void of logic, is void of thought. It just is. I'm learning more and more to connect with my intuition, to not only obey my intuition, rather to not trust my intuition, but to obey my intuition. We have this given knowledge, universal knowledge. We know. We have to trust that. We're aware of our emotions. We know when we're angry. We know when we're getting sad. We know when we're happy. We know when we're ecstatic. We know when we're fulfilled. So if you become more aware of your emotions, again, you can check. Ooh, I'm angry today. What's making me angry? And here's another thing that we have to take into consideration. Sometimes we think this is what's making me angry, but it's actually not. It's actually not that thing. Sometimes we need to take the time to dig deeper and understand what is the real trigger here. There's that cliche phrase now, hangry. Sometimes when we're angry or tired, everything becomes magnified. Are you tired today? Are you angry because you're hungry? All these things you've got to take into consideration. There have been many times in my life where I feel like everything has fallen apart, everything is going wrong, I'm a failure. But that's life. That is the journey of life. Success is painful, growth is painful. But you just have to navigate that as a part of the journey. You have to leverage your pain, your disappointments to propel you to the next level, because what I remind myself is that in moments when everything is falling apart, I have to take a time out, and for me, it's meditation. I'll meditate so I can calm my soul, calm my mind, and in that moment of calmness, I can actually step out of myself and almost look at the situation from a neutral perspective, and then I realized that it's actually maybe not as dramatic as you thought. The pieces might be broken, but they're a puzzle. Maybe you just need to rearrange them, repackage them, rephrase them, and start again. We're never a victim of circumstance, ultimately. It's always about the attitude that you want to implement. And another great quote that I like is Viktor Frankl. This is a man who survived the Holocaust. Probably one of the most atrocious circumstances that humanity has ever known. And how much must you think that your life has fallen apart? You are in the worst situation, imaginable, and he has the strength, the courage to say that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. When you feel you're falling apart, you check your attitude. It's a choice. In terms of process and happiness, whether or not we feel more fulfilled at the end of the journey, or whether we thrive on the excitement of the journey, I think that's an individual choice, and there are times when it's a bit of both. Ultimately, it's focus on the destination. You kind of need to know, you need to kind of have somewhat of a roadmap. That's where I want to go. But along the way, take the time to smell the flowers, to look at the scenery, to step into a puddle and get dirty, and maybe fall and scrape your knees. You've got to have a balance between both. Find happiness in the journey, and it's not always going to be happy. You are going to have moments where you want to yell and you want to scream and you want to give up, and you just think to yourself, I'm a flop, I'm useless. Still find happiness in that. There is a way to find fulfillment in your failure. Just understand that it's temporary. And then you scrape off your knees, you brush off the dust, you refocus on the destination, and the destination might shift.
You're not going to be happy for those 10 years.
That's a really beautiful, success is a moving target.
But
if you see it as a moving target, you constantly have to change and adapt. If your success or your target of success is too far off into the distance, because as was mentioned, success should be or is a moving target. So for me, what I do is I kind of know where I'm going, off into the distance. That's my ultimate target. And yes, it's going to change. And if it's too far ahead, it can be overwhelming. 10 years ahead, I can't see 10 years ahead. So between where I am today and my ultimate target, I set myself micro targets, little stepping stones, and I achieve those. And what that also does is it gives me confidence. I gain momentum. I succeeded in that. I failed. I'm going to adapt. And then slowly I build momentum. And then suddenly what can actually happen is what I thought was the ultimate target has now disappeared. And I remember coming to the United States. My ultimate objective was I came to America to dance for Michael Jackson. It never happened. But as a result of pursuing that moving target, I ended up joining Cirque du Soleil. That wasn't a part of the plan, but it ended up being a better target. Am I constantly ready at all times? Yes and no. So it's a kind of a multi-layered answer. I am ready because I've done the preparation. That includes the years of practice, the years of formation that you invest in becoming qualified or good at doing something. The preparation can happen in terms of speaking, can happen on the drive to the venue. I'm going over my script, I'm warming up my voice, I'm doing all those type of exercises. But I do like to do a warm-up immediately prior to going on stage. But the warm-up is also a question of getting mentally focused, putting myself in the moment, relaxing, letting go. The way I get myself focused usually happens the night before. I'm going over my material, I'm visualizing and imagining how I want the scenario to play out, how I want to be perceived by the audience, what I want to communicate. So that's a part of the preparation. When I wake up in the morning, I go over my script on my drive to work, or I call it work, but it's not really a job. But on my drive to the venue, I'm literally reciting some of the phrases, the key things, the key takeaways that I want to express. I have a few tongue twisters that I use. There's one very British one that I remember as a 7-year-old. Chef's square-shaped, see, I didn't warm up for this. Chef's square-shaped soup shows how good soup should be. And I'll say that 10 times and it will kind of relax my mouth. And there's also the mental preparation. A part of that is just relaxation and also connecting with my gut and my intuition that I'm prepared enough, and then I have to trust that the right things are going to be said at the right time. Staying fit is a key component of the preparation, but that all happens over a period of time. I don't suddenly go to the gym the day before and think that I'm going to miraculously be fit. I work out regularly, maybe 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. That includes jogging. It includes doing weights. I travel a lot, so sometimes in the hotel I have to work with my own body weight. Whatever is there, I'll do tricep exercises using a chair. I'll do push-ups, I'll do handstand push-ups, anything that I can leverage in the environment. That's my way to stay fit. If I'm not fit physically, I think it compromises my performance. The mind and the body are definitely connected, and so as I physically get into my stride, I'm going to say into my stride or into my zone physically, as this element begins to get the blood going to it, that also goes to my brain. I start to find clarity through exercise. I start letting go. The endorphins elevate my performance levels. So for me, it's all mind, body, spirit. I also have to make sure that I'm emotionally in the right place. If I can get all those aligned, I can go out there, I can hit a home run. The way that working out helps me, first of all, it makes me feel alive because I can feel my body is the muscles. It makes me feel energized and healthy. Just that unto itself in terms of wellness, physical wellness is key. It just makes me feel, gives me energy, it makes me feel confident. I think that when we are either physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, it just gives us confidence that we can go out there and face any adversity, any challenges that we have. So you've got to compartmentalize each component. I've got to take time to take care of the physical. I go to the gym. I meditate so that I'm mentally relaxed. I try and find ways that emotionally I am grounded. But usually when I do a physical workout, I find that all those elements kind of come together. And so one thing I highly recommend to people is find out what are the things that you need to do that allow you to become your best self. I'm not telling everybody that you need to go out there and go to the gym 5 times a week or do 50 push-ups or handstand push-ups. What I'm saying is be aware that your body is a huge component of how you present yourself in life. Take care of that. And that can be simple things like instead of eating 4 donuts, maybe eat 2. Instead of parking your car literally by the door of where you need to go, park it at the other side of the parking lot. Take that extra 2-minute walk. Any moment where you have an opportunity to just give yourself a little bit of exercise. You're in the office, you're stuck in your office all day, you've been sitting down for hours. Give yourself a couple of minutes. Walk around, do a brisk walk. Get blood flowing to your brain. It's really going to help you optimize your performance. So working out comes in different levels. It's not about becoming an athlete. It's about giving your body the oxygen that it needs to be at. Chef's square shapes.
But you're not going to be happy for those 10 years.
That's a really beautiful. Success is